So 4 years ago, I made this video. For the longest time, I defended NASCAR on Fox. Honestly, their coverage from 2018 to 2021 really wasn't that bad. Mike Joy was still fresh. Jeff Gordon was coming into his own as a color commentator without having Darrell Waltrip as a distraction. Yes, Fox's production had its moments. However, there was still some enjoyment in turning on your TV on a Sunday afternoon and getting greeted to the iconic intro music, knowing that you were going to watch a NASCAR on Fox broadcast. Now flash ahead to 2025, I have to say, NASCAR on Fox sucks. Now, I was going to compare Fox's coverage to a dumpster fire, but in the words of Fox's play-by-play guy, a dumpster fire can easily be contained. The ineptitude of Fox NASCAR's coverage has spread like wildfire to every single facet of the broadcast to where it is completely unwatchable. So how did we get here? To me, the complete degradation of NASCAR on Fox started at the end of 2021. It was announced at the end of 2021 that Jeff Gordon would depart the team to become Rick Hendrick's clone. It is an understatement to say that this was a massive loss for NASCAR on Fox when it came to insight and personality in the booth. Fortunately, it seemed like Fox was going to be in for a seamless transition. Kevin Harvick was planning to have his Forever Tour in 2021. However, with his successes in 2020 and wanting to help Stewart-Haas Racing adapt to the delayed Gen 7 car, Kevin Harvick would choose to race 2 more seasons. The transition from Gordon to Harvick would be a sloppy handoff. Fox, for the first time in its 2-decade run, lacked a long-term color commentator that achieved the crest of success in NASCAR. Still, they had some solid in-house options like Larry McReynolds and Jamie McMurray. McMurray specifically seemed like someone that had the insight and charisma to replace Gordon, just without the 4 championships and 93 wins. That seemed to be the one thing that prevented Jamie McMurray from easily slotting into that role. Because instead, Fox would do something abnormal for 21st century NASCAR Cup Series broadcasting. For nearly every single race, there would be a brand new guest analyst to join Mike Joy and Clint Bowyer. The carousel overall received mixed reviews. The major pro to this was that we got to hear new perspectives. You had guys like Tony Stewart, Matt Kenseth, and Chad Knaus that were all solid additions to the team. We also got the Waltrip brothers and Bobby Labonte, who made the broadcast dull and uninteresting. Plus, don't even get me started about Danica Patrick talking about how an IndyCar races during a NASCAR broadcast. Fucking ridiculous. The biggest problem with the Fox team is that even though they had 5 months to figure it out, they just never got into rhythm. In 2024, the booth got some stability with credited Cup champion Kevin Harvick effectively replacing Jeff Gordon's role as the main color commentator. However, even with a guy like Kevin Harvick, who right now is the only driver with Gen 7 experience in the booth, the Fox announcing team is still subpar. The poster child of Fox's booth inefficiencies is the 10-time Cup winner, 2008 Xfinity champion, and ADHD icon Clint Bowyer. The 2020 Pro Invitational showed that Bowyer had a personality perfect for television. Fans were feeling groovy when it was announced that Bowyer would join Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon at Fox beginning in 2021. In his 5 years in the booth, Clint Bowyer has honestly been Jekyll Hyde. I'll admit, Bowyer was solid in 2021. The polarity between he and Jeff Gordon made the Fox booth in 2021 refreshing to listen to. Now, as we all know, Jeff Gordon leaving the Fox booth impacted them in many ways, but I would say it impacted Bowyer the most. Clint Bowyer was not hired to be an anchor commentator, yet during some races where you had someone like Michael Waltrip, he was forced to be the voice of reason. There was also that edgy phase for Clint Bowyer in early 2023 when he was so monotone and super serious.
Larson tried to go to the middle. Oh, he got turned.
AJ Allmendinger. Ooh, into the wall, hard.
Now in the Kevin Harvick era, I have to be honest, I cannot stand Clint Bowyer and his impulsivity. Look, I can see from Clint Bowyer's perspective that he's a commentator that likes to react to things raw and without a second thought. However, there is a time and place where you need to shut the up and stay professional. Even colorful personalities like Darrell Waltrip, more times than not, let Mike Joy do his job. Clint Bowyer is one of the most disrespectful commentators I've ever seen in a professional booth.
Here they come.
Phil Green, it's
Off
that
turn
could be a
number
two-time
4.
winner here. William Byron.
And William
Two
Byron
in a row.
Don't take yourselves out and hand it away. Don't do it. Keep an eye on Larson.
Busch has used here twice, sweeping the weekend.
And that's what he's after. He wants one of those bad. He's tried at Homestead, tried here. Oh, so close.
Savar, you see the rubber coming off that right front?
Here he
He's gonna
comes
get it
off
around,
turn
though.
4. He's going to make it to the line. And Kyle Larson beats
cart-
Christopher Bell.
Sometimes I wish somebody at Fox would step him aside and say, Clint, there is a reason why we hired Mike Joy to do play-by-play. You don't need to sit there and do his job. Clint Bowyer consistently interrupting Mike Joy during the finish is a consistent problem. He has failed to be held accountable, and it shows with how Mike Joy has let the booth run hog wild in recent years. So as the play-by-play, your job is to set the tone for the broadcast. This was something that Joy excelled at for over 2 decades, whether that was the emotions of victory, defeat, or the unknown. Now in his mid-70s, it is clear that age is catching up to Mike Joy. Under his direction, the 2025 Goodyear 400 was unwatchable. Honestly, the vibes I got from this race was that Mike Joy was recording a Dale Jr. Download-esque episode with Kyle and Richard Petty instead of commentating the race. This was one instance where Mike Joy made Fox NASCAR feel like it was a local baseball broadcast. While there are some redeeming parts to that, especially the moments where Mike Joy has been a straight-up savage in the booth,
The way this race is playing out, I'll be happy if anybody finishes. Well, I'm sorry, I said the Xfinity Series was a dumpster fire. It's not. A dumpster fire is contained. Really?
there's other times where it honestly seems like Mike Joy just doesn't care anymore. Look, Mike Joy deserves his flowers and he will go down as one of the best NASCAR commentators of all time. But it's time for him to retire from the booth. Mike Joy in 2025 is legions worse than Adam Alexander and Lee Diffie. This is a huge liability for the Fox broadcast, and I believe that it's time. Especially considering that the decline of Mike Joy and the impulsivity of Clint Bowyer is hurting Kevin Harvick in the booth. Ironically, he's in the same position that he was driving for RCR and SHR all of those years. He has to carry this team on his back because clearly he is the only one putting up a semi-good performance. These booth blunders are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Fox's issues. Now let's talk about their worst decision, which was easily removing Larry McReynolds from the main booth in 2016. In many ways, I would say not having Larry in the booth is the reason why we have the disorganized mess that is the current Fox booth. To me, Larry is everything you would want from a color commentator. He's insightful, energetic, and works well with his colleagues. He does a great job studying the information given to him and always finds ways to fit it in perfectly into the broadcast. Without Larry McReynolds in the booth, you don't only lack things like chemistry and the information, but also you lack an important component when it comes to a NASCAR broadcast. Honestly, one of the standout things that you get with a NASCAR broadcast compared to other sports is all the technical information. This is the biggest area where Fox lacks massively compared to Amazon, TNT, and NBC. Whenever a car has an issue on track, you have Steve Letarte right there in the booth to instantly analyze crash damage or the mechanical issues with the car. Meanwhile, when something happens on Fox, in that instant moment, all Mike, Clint, and Kevin can do is speculate. They just go a few minutes where, okay, maybe this happened, maybe that happened, until finally Larry McReynolds gets to say his 2 sentences as the quote-unquote technical director, and that's it. With Larry not being in a prominent role on the broadcast, Fox basically makes NASCAR feel like it's every other sport. However, it's not just the issues with the broadcast booth that makes NASCAR on Fox unwatchable. Artie Kepner has been the longtime race director for NASCAR on Fox. In fact, he's been employed at Fox Sports longer than Fox has had the broadcasting rights to NASCAR. Now, there was a time that under Artie Kepner, the Fox broadcasts were actually at the cutting edge of innovation. Back in the day, Fox NASCAR even won Emmys for outstanding audio. Yeah, for you Gen Alpha NASCAR fans, yes, that actually happened. Slowly over time, Fox NASCAR's production has taken a dip. So here's the thing, I have no insider access to information about Fox NASCAR, so this isn't all on Artie. There's a good chance that there's been some budget cuts within the Fox NASCAR program, especially since the economy has been up and down. In this instance, as a fan, I want to look at some of the instances that the average viewer has seen on television broadcasted to them by the people doing the races. Some of the booth audio for the Fox races sounds like it's being recorded in mono. Also, I've noticed that the Fox car audio sounds really awkward, especially when you compare it to NBC.
Line up behind you, still out there.
For decades, they ran this race in the morning.
In addition, you have Fox tending to cut away or miss important battles completely to show a kid in the grandstands. There are times in the Fox broadcast where I seriously wonder if they hired Joseph Lumpturd to do the camera work for them because they just love showing kids. Then you have instances like the 2023 All-Star race. Clint Bowyer insisted Fox to stick with him to prove a point, yet they still cut away. Then there are instances where Fox will do the fancy split screen and literally show everything except what's going on the racetrack. Fox NASCAR is an unorganized mess that makes the broadcast feel old school and not in a cool retro way. No. I'm talking about the Kmart of NASCAR broadcasting. These Fox productions really make me feel like I'm watching a race in the 80s with how poorly they utilize elements on the screen and the dull camera angles. Compared to Fox IndyCar, it's a night and day difference. They don't have any of the shenanigans like having a ghost car take up half the screen or cutting away to a driver interview during a hot racetrack. Fox IndyCar also doesn't have the cartoon illustrations of drivers. Now, if I'm being real here, I don't mind the cartoon illustrations, but they have to be done correctly. The Fox NASCAR cartoons aren't only inconsistent, but in some cases, they are completely inaccurate to what the drivers even look like. The cartoons don't look cool, and if anything, this just reinforces the narrative that Fox treats NASCAR like it's a big old joke. It shows because there is no urgency, at least from the public eye, to improve these broadcasts. Fox NASCAR isn't just the most delusional, but they're also the most stubborn broadcast in sports broadcasting, especially when you look at how they react to fan criticism. Even Mike Joy, for how quote-unquote professional he is, passed off criticism of Fox's abundance of commercials in 2023 as the keyboard warriors at it again.
For all the keyboard warriors, I'm going to do this in words of one syllable. The last green flag full screen break of this race comes right now.
I find it ironic that this was the same guy that recently went on Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour podcast and talked about how NASCAR needs to engage younger fans. Mike, I hate to say it, but this is basically the pot calling the kettle black. In my opinion, Fox Sports definitely deserves some of the blame for NASCAR striking out with millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha. As a younger Gen Z fan, Fox broadcasts are specifically made for old people. And no, I'm not talking about all of the diehards that went to Daytona, Darlington, and Bristol back in the day when NASCAR was at its peak popularity. No, I'm talking about the people 70 plus that just want to take a Sunday nap with the race on as background noise. Overall, these Fox races have a sluggish, stale aura that makes it uninteresting to younger fans like myself. I am dying for Amazon Prime to take over because at least with that broadcast, it looks like there's some fun, there's some freshness. something that Fox used to have back in the 2000s, even if it was all the corny country vibes with Dierks Bentley. At least there was personality. At least you felt like watching Fox on a Sunday afternoon was going to be a treat. Nowadays, I just straight up don't give a fuck because Fox is completely unwatchable. Okay, so I don't want to end this video just completely blasting Fox, but I want to offer some solutions on how I would fix the NASCAR on Fox broadcast. Some changes have already been made, like Artie Kepner going to ESPN. This is just one of many elements with the Fox broadcast that is going to get a total reboot if I were in charge. Kevin Harvick remains, but joining him in the main cup booth will be Rick Allen as play-by-play and Larry McReynolds returning to the team. I know, I've been critical of Rick Allen in the past, especially with the emergence of Lee Diffie. I mean, come on, this guy made a Harrison Burton win iconic. Still, I honestly believe that Rick Allen deserves a second chance. Just look at Adam Alexander. When he had his first stint at TNT, he wasn't viewed favorably. However, after getting some more reps and experience, he has become a solid play-by-play guy, more than deserving of calling Amazon and TNT's cup races. If Rick Allen can stop stumbling over himself during calls, he is easily an asset to Fox. He did a solid job anchoring NBC's broadcasts and keeping the team on task. I believe that he can give the Fox broadcast a serious direction that it hasn't had with 2022 to 2025 Mike Joy. Meanwhile, adding Larry McReynolds corrects Fox's biggest blunder and adds some technical insight to the three-man booth. Going on to pre-race, Chris Myers is replaced with Danielle Trotta, as I think she would be more fitting for this role than a guy like Chris Myers at this point. She will join the Fox team for the first time since 2016 and anchor the pre-race with analysts Harvick and Jamie McMurray. Now, as for Mike Joy and Clint Bowyer, they're no longer in the main booth at Fox, but I still think they can be valuable assets to the broadcast. Mike Joy is going to be in a Ken Squire-esque role. Basically, he's going to be utilized for more of the historical aspects, and he is going to be the person that can teach younger fans about the history of NASCAR. Then you've got Clint Bowyer, who effectively replaces Michael Waltrip. This role is going to allow him to show more of his made-for-TV personality. You can have Bowyer do so many things, like the grid walk, he can walk the campgrounds during stages, and be what Rutledge Wood was at NBC in the late 2010s. Then for the production, it's simple. NASCAR Productions follows in the footsteps of IndyCar by producing the Fox races, and hopefully in return, Fox decides to put more NASCAR races on Big Fox, considering that NASCAR is taking in some of those costs. Those are my fixes to make NASCAR on Fox great again. I just want to end this off by saying that NASCAR on Fox for the longest time was the gold standard of broadcasting. All of those days with Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Darrell Waltrip, cutting edge technology, and really a vibe that made it feel like quintessential NASCAR. NASCAR on Fox in 2025 is far from that, but it isn't too late to rekindle that magic and get back to being at least a respectable NASCAR broadcast.